All right, welcome back. Thanks for joining me on your Saturday. And I just have, if this is your first time here, there's a little icon on the right hand side. It's a little chat box on the bottom right. If you click that, then the chat will come up, and feel free to write any question anytime. And I think somebody already put something there. Oh, maybe not. Oh, you did. Hello, everyone. I hope everybody's doing great too. And I have just a few questions that came up previously. So feel free to add your question. Oh, good. Excellent. We got some questions already. All right. So I'm going to start with these ones. And feel free to put a question in any time. And if you want to speak up, go ahead and just speak up, okay? So, my question, good morning, Forrest, would like to share, oh, okay. Oh, yeah, okay, so this was about the freeze response. I was in the Paravasana. After some time, I could not feel my palms to my mid-forearm. Is this the freeze response? Absolutely. So what we have to understand is that all of these things will manifest slightly differently for different people because it's how you perceive things. So it's going to depend on your sensations and your subconscious and how you interpret that and what you associate it with. And so the way that you describe things is going to be a little bit different every single time. So sometimes I go, well, your hands will get hot and heavy. And people are like, oh no, I don't have that. And my hands just got a little warm. I'm like, that's it. That's the hands hot and heavy. You got it. And so we have to be a little bit mentally flexible in order to recognize all of these things. So, and a lot of these things will manifest in many different ways. And the freeze response is one of those, definitely. So the skin tingling, that's the beginning of the activation of that. And so there's a set of nerves in your skin. And I believe what your body is doing is it's helping you to become numb when you go to sleep. And these nerves are set up for that. You can actually stimulate them. It's kind of fun if you want to try it. So you on a bare arm, you would go back and forth just very, very, very lightly. So you can try that on your skin. Just very lightly touch it. And it will begin to stimulate those nerves which cause the numbing effect. And so your nervous system, I believe, is set up to turn those on in the night so that your body begins to numb out. And so one of the ways that you can begin to feel that in your meditation is that the skin will begin to tingle. And so that's a beginning sign. And then the level of information will go down. And so you felt your arm or your legs or your face or your chest or your back. You felt it this much, and then it goes down and down and down. And I like to say that my body becomes ghost-like. But a lot of yogis have said, well, it's numb. My whole body gets numb. And it's not the kind of numb where you've lost blood flow in your leg and then you get all the pins and needles when it comes back. It's does not feel very good, does it? And this is very different. It's a very pleasurable reduction of sensation. So if we want to experiment with that, we haven't quite felt all of that, and we want to know what that might feel like. Go like this over your arm, without a shirt, and over your legs, and just feel what that feels like if you go the lightest touch you can possibly give. And if you know somebody who's in a lot of physical pain and you want to help them, you can do this. You can just barely touch them. And it will activate those nerves and it will mute the sensations in the body. I've been in extreme pain in my life from kidney stones, and all I could do was go into the shower and let the water fall over my skin, and I would put on a very, very light shower, and it would just rain down and give just a very light sensation, and it would help to numb the pain, and I could last like that for hours. So very, very good stuff to know, right? And so that numbing is part of the freeze response. Feeling ghost-like is part of the freeze response. You might feel shell-like. That's part of the freeze response. You might feel like, I want to move, and there's a tiny hair of resistance, right? I like to say I felt like I was an eggshell, and I don't want to crack the egg. Like, there's just, like, I could feel like energy swirling inside the body, and then the outer edges of the body were frozen in place and shell-like. Just, they had become frozen and solid, not tense, but just frozen and delightful, just really delightful. And you can have waves of coolness go through the spine. You can have waves of coolness go through the whole body, up, down, left, right, doesn't matter. Usually it's up and down, but it doesn't really matter. All of that is the freeze response. And then part of the body might disappear. I had a friend of mine in martial arts. He wanted to learn meditation. I started teaching him, and then in 1 month, he wrote me and he goes, "Is it normal if half of my body just disappears?" I'm like, "Oh, that's beautiful. You had a deep freeze response. Amazing." So these things will come, and sometimes they'll come very quickly, and usually we don't know to pay attention to them, and so we discount them. But you guys know, and so you go so fast into the freeze response. It's just amazing. So yes, absolutely. I lost sensation in my hand in the mid-forearm. Is that the freeze response? Absolutely. So it's kind of like you've got the general in your brain, and you've got the army in your body, and the army is sending back signals, a lot of signals back to the brain. And through the meditation, we're interrupting those pathways, specifically in the left brain, because we're actually vacating the left brain. We're leaving it and crossing over into the right brain. And so as we do that, we lose some of those signals. And so the body mapping, which is done by the army, is interrupted. And so you're like, where's my information? Half of my map is missing. That's right. The report on that half of the map is gone momentarily because you are vacating your old post and moving to a new post. And that's why we get this interruption of information. And it's all very, very natural. It's all through the freeze response. You go into it every single night. It's all through the dorsal vagal. So it's really beautiful and very, very, very natural. And then you'll also get the displacement, right? So I feel like my head's over here, my body's over here, or vice versa. Or you can get stretching sensations. All of that is the freeze response. So absolutely beautiful. Okay. Just a couple questions, and I'm going to get all the great questions over here. Amber says she wants to know about coming to see me, and so I'm gonna text you about that. But usually somebody stays in a hotel, and then I'll meet you somewhere, and it's customary to bring a donation for the Kriya, and I did that for Ashok every time I asked for a Kriya. Amber says, another question can be answered briefly is regarding the Dharma Megha in Savikalpa Samadhi. I have heard and understand that the Dharma Megha Samadhi is Nirvikalpa with eyes open because you are not perceiving any objects but only consciousness. Would it be technically accurate to say that someone established in Sahaja Samadhi in this manner could still experience Savikalpa? Yeah, absolutely. So could you have a Sahaja and then go back and have a Savikalpa Samadhi? Yes. I would say yes. Yes, you're correct. But only technically. What would you say? So So this is really this is a great question, great subject. So we've got the beginning samadhi, and Patanjali says, in this beginning samadhi, savikalpa, we're going to still have a little bit of reasoning and recollection. So it's not the manas mind. It's not the normal chattering sense mind, right? It's like, I'm in samadhi, but no, it's not like that. It's not like that. It's the buddhi mind, which is left over. So it's the, we're coming deeper and deeper into the right brain, and just a little bit of the reasoning and recollection is there. I think it's, well, you've spent a lot of time integrating with the subconscious, so it's not normal thinking. And then it's just a little bit of the very inspired intelligence, right? Because we're touching on God, right? We're starting to touch on God, and then we touch on God, and then we merge in God. So the mind is not the same. It's very, very inspired, but there's just a little bit of the left brain left over, and it still has a tiny bit of reasoning and recollection, even in the samadhi. So people are like, Forrest, my meditation is horrible. I still have mind chatter. I'm like, yeah, that doesn't even go away in the samadhi. So just relax about it. So that should kind of blow our minds a little bit. Wait. The first samadhi, I still have a little bit of the mind? Yeah. So don't worry about it so much. If there's a little bit of talking, don't let it bother you. Don't let it stress you out. Don't look for perfection in your meditation. Look for the skills. The skills will guide you correctly every single time. The skills that I talk about, right? Tranquil breath, freeze response, roll up of consciousness, HRV resonance, all of that, the 4 proofs, all of that. Those are the skills we want, and that will propel you deeper and deeper into meditation. Don't look for perfect silence. It's like going into silence is like the pool. We go into the pool and, oh my God, it was so nice. I want to go for another dip. Oh my God, I go into the pool. Oh my God, it was so great. I love that silence. That's what silence is. We dip into it, and you're dipping into the right brain. That's how it's working. So you're like, dip, and you come back. And you dip, and you come back. And it wasn't perfect. No. You dipped in, and then you came back, and that's how it works. Perfect. Nothing wrong with that. And welcome, everybody. And so even in the beginning samadhi, there's still a reasoning and recollection, and then we go into the nirvikalpa, and we lose that reasoning and recollection. So people are like, what does that mean? Does that mean we're not there? We're not thinking? Do we lose consciousness? No, you don't. You never lose it. The awareness is always there. The being is always there. That is it. You're just pure being, and you're not thinking about it. Well, here I am, and I'm everything. That's thinking about it. You come out of it, then you do that. You're like, oh my God, I was everything. But when you're in it, you're just like, and I was talking, Julia, we were talking about the perfect prayer, right? And do you remember that? We were talking about, look at the Renaissance painters, and they're thinking about it. They're actually thinking about it. Okay, I'm drawing this, I'm painting a picture of this angel, and the angel is there with God. Like, what is the appropriate attitude, right? What's going on in the mind of the angel? Because I have to paint this, right? They've got to have an expression. It makes sense. And so they're actually, sorry, I'm trying to admit a couple people. There we go. So the painter's actually thinking about what does this look like? And so you see these angels in what I call the perfect prayer. The perfect prayer is, it's just awe and adoration, right? It's just like, and it's first we come into the heart and it kind of explodes. But then we come up into a little bit of a higher love, and we mix it with wisdom. And then we come up a little higher, and that mixes with knowing. And we come up a little bit higher, and that mixes with huge expansion. And so that's part of that perfect prayer, that the heart, the love, it just turns into something I like to say a love you've had for 1,000,000 years. Can you imagine loving someone, like purely, deeply, profoundly loving somebody for 1,000,000 years? Can you imagine what that feels like? It's just there. It's not a big, aggressive, boisterous love. It's a love with peace and a love with knowing and a love with wisdom and a love with expansion. And that's the perfect prayer. And it's not from the left brain. It's not a lot of words. It's just, right? And so that's the perfect prayer, right? That's the perfect attitude when you are embracing expansion, as an example, right? So, okay. So we're moving from savikalpa to nirvikalpa, and that's no reasoning, no recollection. You're just being, right? And then finally, those states integrate even while we're sitting or moving around. We don't have to be frozen anymore. And so John calls me up. He goes, Forrest, I'm at work. I'm like, okay, John. He says, Forrest, I looked down into my stomach and I saw the universe and I knew I was that. I'm like, okay. Don't freak out. You're having a Sahaja Samadhi at work. Don't drive home. Don't go anywhere. Just sit down and kind of integrate, process, come back to earth. Make sure you come back to earth. It's like, okay. And he went home maybe an hour later. But he's having a Sahaja Samadhi at work, right? Beautiful, isn't it? Just beautiful. So he's not in the freeze. He's not trying to meditate. And the oneness, the knowing of the oneness. In other words, he's using his left brain and yet the right brain comes in. Just profound integration of oneness while he's at work, walking around. I looked down at my stomach and I saw the universe, right? Beautiful. That is a Sahaja Samadhi. And so now these frozen states are integrating with our daily life. And through this, we get more and more perception of the expansiveness of the divine, the hugeness of the divine all day, every day, more and more. It's incremental, right? So maybe we have an experience and then we feel it and then we have an experience and we feel it and we have an back and forth. It's incremental. And it starts to change how you see your life, how you see yourself, how you see the world, how you see everything. And that's why I like to quote Hafiz, right? That beautiful quote, spare me your ideas. What is, I gotta read it. I'm going to find it. Okay, hold on. Maybe not. Okay. He goes something like, spare me your ideas of right and wrong until you know that all is holy. Isn't that beautiful? Spare me until you know. Spare me your, oh my God, this and oh my God, that, right? Spare me until you know. Spare yourself until you know all is holy. Because that's the most chunked up level, isn't it? Now you're embracing the hugeness, and that's what the samadhi is. We have taken this little consciousness and we stretched it and we stretched it and we stretched it and well, there's divinity and there's angels and there's these high ideals, and we stretched it, and finally it was big enough it could embrace that hugeness, which is the samadhi. And then we slip into that state, right? We kept stretching, we touched the silence, and every time we touch the silence, we're stretching, and then boom, we embrace the whole, and that's the non-dual. And then we're not even looking for the non-dual, and we come into this oneness. This integration process takes place, and through that we gain more and more contact with the Dharma Mega, the cloud of knowing, the hugeness of the divine, the big holy. I love that. I love that name, the big holy. Makes it easy and simple. And so we start to integrate with the Dharma Mega. So are we going to have a Savikalpa, a Nirvikalpa, and a Sahaja again, even though we're touching the Dharma Mega? Yeah, probably. But it doesn't, none of it, So Patanjali talks about renunciation, and the Gita talks about renunciation. And people take it to mean an outward thing, that we wear a robe or whatever. No, it's completely internal, completely. And they're talking about this phase where you've touched these states which are so big and so holy and so profound that you can't worry about the details anymore. And so you even start to let go of your ideas of, oh my God, I have to have a samadhi. Oh my God, I have to have this state. Oh my God, I have to have that state. You start to let go even of that. And that is the true renunciation. So it's really beautiful, right? And so great question. Welcome, everybody. Last question. This one is related to my practice directly. It is a regular occurrence now, like once or more a week, for me to lose sense perception of the body. Sometimes it's rather dramatic. Like once where the whole thing blew away and dissolved like dust in the wind, leaving only blissful consciousness and no forms or mind-head barriers. Usually, though, it is a slow build-up and I fall into bliss and formlessness. Does this sound accurate to Savikalpa Samadhi? I am happy to answer any clarifying questions. This is a great question, and it's hard to know because some of the states of absorption, so in the absorption, so like if I'm not wearing a shirt like Lahiri Baba and I'm meditating and I start to, my body, first of all, gets hands hot and heavy. My whole body warms up a little bit because the arteries are dilating, right? And so the blood warms the body a little bit. And then if the temperature in the room is okay, I'm not going to do this if I'm shivering, right? That's not going to help my meditation. But if the temperature in the room is okay and I can meditate without a shirt, it makes it very easy to lose the boundary of the body. Okay, here's the edge of me. And then in meditation, I start to lose that because of the way the body is feeling and because of the freeze response, the edge of the body starts to disappear. And now my mind tries to identify with something, right? It starts to identify with the air in the room. And so I can't tell if I'm this or if I'm this. I start to identify with all of the air, or, you could say all of your aura or your energetic body or whatever you want to call it. But you start to feel bigger. And that is an absorption into spaciousness. Your consciousness is identifying with a little more space than what you were before, and you're entering into absorption. And if you take that farther and farther and farther, and that spaciousness fills up every nook and cranny of your consciousness, then you will go into a samadhi. You'll embrace all of spaciousness, and you will lose the subconscious. And that's what makes the samadhi. So you lose the perception of your body as it was. So there's no body. You can't go back and check, right? If you could turn around and force yourself to go back, and then you would fall out of the samadhi, right? So it's like, where's my body? Where's my body? I'm really concerned. I'm looking for my body, and then you find it. Well, that now you messed up, right? You forced yourself out of the state. What I mean is I'm reflecting and I can't seem to find it. Like I quickly reflect and I can't seem to find any body. I can't find any breath. And it's just expansiveness. And it can be an expansiveness of bliss, an expansiveness of intelligence, an expansiveness of nothing. And there's lots of subcategories within those. It can be an expansiveness of love. I had somebody tell me I became a pink mist of love that was everywhere. I thought, oh my God, a pink mist samadhi. So that's a union state. But the main categories are space, intelligence, and nothingness. So those are the main categories. And or just silence. That works as well. And so if you lose the body and you lose the breath and you're just that expansiveness, then it is a union state. Absolutely. And it does ramp up. So beautiful. And okay. Ryan says, are breath holds on the exhale useful in any way or at any stage of practice? Very good question. Thanks, Ryan. In the lineage that I teach, in the beginning, which means 1 to 3 years, in the beginning, we don't focus on breathing out and holding the breath. We focus on breathing in and holding the breath. And there are other Kriya lineages where they'll do both, or they'll breathe out and hold the breath. And we don't do that. And there's a very specific reason that our lineage. And so you can read the letters of Lahiri Baba, and somebody tries to kind of corner him a little bit, and like, you got to denounce this group and put this group up, right? Can you please tell me what is correct and what is not correct? And Lahiri Baba didn't do that to his teachers, because then you would never listen to that teacher again. And so he says both are correct. And he's right. It's true. Both are correct. In the Panchanan lineage, we breathe in and then we hold the breath. And the reason for that is that when you breathe out and hold the breath, sorry, I'm just admitting somebody, hopefully. Did it work? There we go. Okay. When you breathe out and hold the breath, you're creating a little bit of a magnet towards the lower chakras. And if you haven't cleaned them out enough, like for 1 or 3 years, you haven't ohmed into the chakras every single day and really cleaned out the lower chakras, you can encounter problems magnetizing the lower chakras. We don't want to do that. So we would rather breathe in, hold the breath. And so create a magnet towards the heart, towards the throat, towards the medulla, towards the top of the head. That's where we want everything going. And so it's a genius understanding of this lineage that it's probably a better idea to create a magnet towards the brain. You're still doing the breath hold. You're still creating the pull towards the dorsal vagal and towards the brain. But you're going to have a better experience, we hope, through Kriya Yoga if you breathe in and hold the breath versus breathing out. And then later on, 1 year or 3 years, and you're like, well, I want to experiment with the breathe out and hold the breath. And you'll notice it gives you a different sensation. And it's also good. But now you've spent the time to clean out the chakras and you've avoided a whole lot of problems, we hope. So beautiful question. And I don't hear anybody talking about what I just said. So that's kind of cool to know, isn't it? So, great question. Rashan says, can we heal oneself and others in our system of meditation? Please explain the process. Absolutely. So, my daughter had a little digestion trouble the other day, and so I put my hand on her third chakra, which is the fire, right? And I ohmed into it, right? Om. And I just breathed through her with Om and into the third chakra, and just very, very, very quickly, the digestion, the feeling of uneasiness in the digestion, it went away very, very easily. And so you can breathe through somebody like that, and it will help to move their energy wherever they're feeling trouble. You can put your hand on them and just it's very good to start with a prayer. So, Divine Mother, I'm your child. This is your child. I'm just going to breathe through them and try and help them a bit. And so please help me in that. Please guide me. And then just breathe through them. I did this for one of my students. He was coming for a Kriya initiation. He was feeling chronic pain. And I breathed through his cervical vertebrae for, I think, a couple minutes. And the pain completely disappeared. And it didn't return for a couple weeks. So it can be very powerful. But I would encourage you to not try and do everything yourself and instead turn to the divine. And so there's a process that the Hawaiians were very, very clear on. And I see it in yogic rituals. I see it in things like the Gayatri Mantra. I see it all over in the pujas. And so, but the Hawaiians, they said it so clearly, it's kind of beautiful. They said, I'm going to take my energy, my mana, and I'm going to feed it to the higher self. I'm going to give it to the higher self. So I can do that through prayer. I can do that through breath. I can do that through a mantra. But I am feeding my energy to the higher self. And my mana then transforms into mana loa, meaning a higher form of that energy. And now the higher self takes that and does work with it. So you can think about it. This is how they thought about it. So you can think about it a lot of different ways, but this is kind of beautiful. I'm giving you the gift of my breath so that you can, telling you, praying to you, loving to you, so that you can do something with it. And I'm going to let you decide. I'm not going to get mixed up and try and force the universe to become what I want it to become, right? I'm going to spare me your ideas of right and wrong until you know that all is holy. I am sitting back here. I'm not going to try and manipulate the universe because now my heartstrings are all wrapped up into it, right? And I don't want to do that. I want to let the divine do what the divine is doing. And I'm just, hey, I'm your kid. I'm soliciting to you to pay attention to your child. Do what you think is best. Please bless them. And so it's a very, very open-ended prayer. And they did, I read years ago, they did a study. They prayed for plants and they're like, do this, please do this, right? And that prayer didn't work very well. And then they went to another plant and they said, just bless the plant. Just you do what you do. You bless the plant. It's in your hands. And that prayer worked very, very well. So an open-ended prayer where you're actually trusting the higher self is much more powerful. And so whenever I'm praying for somebody, it's always open-ended like that. And so this Hawaiian process, it works like this. So I'm going to connect to the higher self. I'm going to feel that connection. And I gave an example of this, and you can also do it with the angel exercise. So I'm going to say, okay, my angel, which is Divine Mother, she's sneaking up over my left shoulder. And so I'm going to breathe into her. And I might do that. I might do that for 5 or 10 minutes. And as I'm breathing into her, I'm saying the prayer, Divine Mother, bless this person. And I could do this first too. So I feel the connection. Maybe I have a vision of Divine Mother. Maybe I don't. It doesn't matter. It's the feeling which is most important. I feel that presence sneaking up on me. That's the angel exercise, right? So that's a wonderful way to connect with the higher self. And so I've established that connection. Then I say the prayer, please bless so-and-so. And then I breathe into her. And that's my offering, right? So you see so many times they'll have a picture of the divine and then they will place a food offering in front of the divine. And that's what you are doing actively with your breath. You're offering your breath. And you can do it out loud with the ha breath, or you can do it internally with the breath, either way. But the ha breath, it really lets you know what you're doing. Okay, here I am, and I'm breathing into the divine. You do that for 5 minutes, and then you let it go. You say, okay, it's yours. And what happens to me is I'll be praying for somebody, and I'll be breathing into Divine Mother, and she'll actually tell me, okay, it's full. That's it. You're done. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I just stop. So she will let you know. And so there's a feeling like, okay, I'm filling up the cup. I'm filling up the cup. I'm filling up. Okay, the cup is full. Okay. So when you get that feeling, you can stop. And if you don't have that feeling, just do it for 5 or 10 minutes. And it's okay to come back and do it again. But you want to do the prayer and let go. Do the prayer, let go. And so that's what I recommend. And now it's not about you. It's not about you trying to control the world and the universe, which is a very difficult thing. Now it's about the higher self, which is a very beautiful and simple thing. And so you've chunked up into the higher self and allowed this concern to go into the realm of the higher self. And now it's a different magnitude because we're chunking up. Here we are down here, and it's very small. And now we're chunking up into something which is huge. And so the divine can do huge things. And so just doing this process, you've entered into a different realm of effectiveness in your prayer. So great question. Great question. Luke, I hope that helps. Try it out and see how you like it. I love it. I adore this process. I do it all the time. Lucas says, Forrest, can you talk about the air body? I hear mastering later pranayams creates a fully developed body which one uses after death. So I think you're talking about the astral form. And so, yeah, you're opening your heart knot. You're going to feel energy going through the body, which are the movements of the subconscious. We're cleaning that out. And so we could say we're cleaning out our energetic body, which is the cleaning of our own subconscious. And then you might have an out-of-body experience, which is, I spoke with a yogi in India one time, and I call him my Buddha because he calls me up. He goes, I meditate, and my mind just stops. It just absolutely stops. I don't think a thing. It's just complete silence when I meditate. And I'm going, why is this a problem? Wait, how am I helping you? This sounds fantastic. Why is this a problem? And I slowly realized, you want to understand what happened to you. And so we talked about what happened to him. I'm like, you had a samadhi. You had a really, really, really profound experience with the right brain. And now when you meditate, you just enter deeply into silence every time. He's like, oh no, I couldn't have had a samadhi because I checked with this other yogi locally. And he said, well, you're not seeing the spiritual eye every day regularly, and you're not having out-of-body experiences for years, and therefore you couldn't have had a samadhi. I'm like, that's ridiculous. If you had a samadhi, you had a samadhi. It doesn't have to happen you don't have to notice every little thing in order for it to be a samadhi. And you don't have to do out-of-body. You can. That's one level of freedom from the left brain when you have an out-of-body experience, but it's not necessarily something that you have to aim for at all. In fact, I think it's a hindrance. If you develop that for years, you could get stuck there rather than stuck in that level of freedom rather than pursuing the non-dual state. So I think it's much better the way Kriya Yoga approaches it and doesn't worry about if you have an out-of-body experience or not. And so he was convinced. It was the depth of his own meditations that were convincing him. But it was very funny. And so you can have an out-of-body experience, and that's what you're talking about. That's what people are talking about when they say that you probably use this after death. But you're doing it. The whole Kriya process is that we're cleaning it out, and that's the big deal. And the cleaning it out is that you can let it go, and you go up into these very, very deep perceptions inside of the right brain, and you just completely let go of all of that. So you let go of So I don't spend a lot of time talking about the energetic body because to me it's a hindrance. I see so many yogis, energy, 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 energy. It's like, oh my God, yes, energy. Okay, but consciousness, did you notice that as well? No, energy. and so I've noticed that in so many teachings that I'm like, well, let's not concentrate on that so much. So I don't talk about it a lot, but everything that you're doing is cleaning that out. And that is the cleaning of your subconscious. So beautiful. Thank you, Lucas. Victor says, you commented on the onion. Forrest, would love if you talk about the significance of Navarati for the Kriya Bond and its true inner meaning. Well, we have Pooja is here, and she's an expert on the Navarati, I believe. No. Well, you can correct me if I say something wrong, please. And so I believe that the 9 days are actually talking about the nine. One of the ways we could interpret that is they're talking about the 9 directions. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, we can say, yeah.
Um,
The 9 forms of Ma Durga. That's
yes,
what we
yes.
pray to.
And would that correspond with the 9 directions?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're talking about one of the things I love about the Gayatri mantra is that it's this perfect form of the divine. So Savitor is so imagine the Dharma Mega, right? That is Brahma, right? And then they say out of Brahman comes this lotus from his navel, right? And so what does that mean? It means from the core of Brahman comes the universe. The universe comes from his core, the navel. It represented by the navel, and it's this lotus. And the lotus forms the light, Savitor. So Tat Savitor, that is what the Gayatri is calling on. And they say, well, it forms the triune Ma, right? The triune form of Gayatri Ma. Gayatri, 3, and the 3 forms are Saraswati, Lakshmi, and Kali. And if you concentrate on just one, that's one form. So maybe we need more Kali in our life, right? And we have a little more fire in our lives, right? And we need some of that fire in our lives to be balanced. But we also need Saraswati. We need to embrace these huge, deep philosophical ideas and understandings. And we need Lakshmi. We need blessings up and blessings down, right? We need this back and forth with the divine and the blessing of our lives, right? We need all of that. And that's why the Gayatri mantra is so powerful. It's this beautiful triune form. And so the Navaratri, Navaratri is taking it just a little bit farther, isn't it? What's that?
It's Navratri.
Yes.
9 nights.
9 nights.
Navratri.
9 nights. 9 forms of the Divine Mother, right?
Okay. 9 forms. Yes.
So now it's not just 3. We take the 3 times 3 and now it's 9. So it's just this beautiful, beautiful expression of the perfection of that energy, which forms, it's the Shakti, it's the form of the entire, it's the moving force of the entire universe. And we're connecting to all of that. So it's a really, really beautiful thing to connect with. And when you do something which is so complete, maybe it's the Gayatri mantra, or maybe it's this puja for 9 days, it's so complete. It's not one corner. It's not Kali. It's not Saraswati. It's not Lakshmi. It's everything and everything. Those 3 times 3, that's 9, right? So just beautiful. So it whenever you do something which is so complete, your energetic body becomes extremely balanced, which means that your consciousness becomes extremely balanced. And then everything starts to flow correctly, which is, that's part of what we're doing. We're trying to get everything washed out, cleaned, and flowing correctly. Everything flowing correctly. And that's what these rituals are trying to help us embrace, is this just really, really deep, profound balance. So beautiful. Beautiful. So that was Victor. Thank you, Victor. Okay, so now, oh my goodness, that took much longer than I thought. So let's come over to the right side here and let me answer these. Russ says, Forrest, in your book, Mastering Meditation, and YouTube videos, you speak about the dorsal vagal and the ventral vagal, also the freeze response and the caudate nucleus and other organic things that have to do with our nervous system and our brains. At the end of the day, is Kriya Yoga just an organic experience that creates endorphins in our brains? Is God or higher mind just an endorphin experience? I don't believe so. No. So, I mean, we can debate about it, but the thing is, you go into the experience, and I have a wonderful young lady who is a banker, and she started having all these synchronicities in her life. The Jewish tradition and the Christian tradition, they talk about 10 angels. So we were talking about 9, and now we're talking about 10 angels, right? See, do you see the similarity? It's not just one, it's just all these forms, right? And it's actually those 10 angels kind of form a hierarchy of Jacob's ladder, right? Jacob had this beautiful vision of a ladder going into heaven. He said there are angels going up and angels coming down. And we could say that there's a hierarchy to that we're chunking up, and it's getting bigger. And so the highest angel, if you read the definition of some of the seraph angels, like what do they mean? They start sounding very much like, at one level, they start sounding like the spiritual eye. Like it's a lot of angels that look like a big, huge circle. It's like, did you know that? Did you ever hear of that? Did anybody ever tell you that there are angels that look like a circle? Doesn't that sound familiar to the yogi? And then there are these angels that sound like absorption experiences. It's like the angel was so big and it was so huge and it was spread out, and it was like, oh, that sounds like an absorption experience. And so there's this hierarchy, right? And then the last angel, the one at the very bottom, is the angel that you're going through your life, and somebody just comes to you, like a person, a man or a woman or a child, comes and tells you something, right? And you're like, oh, wait, that is like the perfect answer to the question I just asked. How can that happen, right? And so this wonderful Kriya Yogini that is my student, she starts having these synchronicities, but not just one. It was like every day, every day, every day, every day. And she called me up. She goes, Forrest, it's real. I'm like, yeah, it's real. She goes, Forrest, it's real. It's real. I'm like, yeah, it's real. So, but it's real. It's like the whole, it sank in, like, right? It's all real. And that experience it all came from those synchronicities. So we can imagine that it's the brain, and we can imagine that it's endorphins. We can imagine that it's, chemicals doing their thing. And all of that is okay with me, because what you will discover is you're going to have this level of an experience where you come back to me one day and you go, and I'm not saying that you were saying this, but I mean, anybody who has that perspective, you're going to come to me one day and you're going to go, it's all real. And I'm going to go, yeah, it's all real. And so either way it works. The process works. And Yogananda said in the Autobiography of a Yogi very beautifully that it's about you proving it to yourself. It doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter what somebody else thinks. It's about you finding out for yourself. It's like you do the investigation, you run the experiment, and we find out. And just like that yogini, she found out. She couldn't deny the level of synchronicity that was happening day after day in her life. And she goes, it's all real. I'm like, yeah, it's all real. And so maybe you have that as an internal experience. Maybe you have that as an external experience like she did. But it starts to come together. You go, I can't really deny it so much anymore. There's this hugeness. And maybe you don't call it a certain name. And people get so hung up on a name. It's like, who cares about a bloody name? Call it whatever you want. Call it the Big Holy. That's what I do. I love that name. And so it's not about a name. It's not about a name at all. We have to be more mentally flexible than that. So yes, I call on all of these things because I went through a crisis in my own meditations where I had to nail everything to the floor because I was ungrounded, and that ungroundedness was. Thank you for the hearts. That was very beautiful. The ungroundedness was causing me energetic problems, and I just started taking everything in my life and just kind of, okay, here's this, and I just nail it to the floor, and so my whole practice became nailed to the floor, And what I love about it is when I teach people, they're like, oh, that's okay, I get it. And they just go and do it. But if I was to say all the things I'm already saying, but I said all of them with esoteric names, then you can't go and do it. It's not the same. It's very different. And so that it makes all the difference. It makes it very practical and very grounded and very doable. And then you guys just go out and do it. And you're like, oh yeah, I'm in the tranquil breath and the freeze response. And I'm like, oh my God, that took me how many years? And here you are in 3 months entering into the tranquil breath and the freeze response. Oh my God, how is this possible? Well, I gave you the tools and you understand them and you just go do it. So beautiful question. So no, I'm not saying that when I say, so I think the question is, are you saying that it's all just in the body and the brain? No, these are the windows. I'm teaching you how to, so it's kind of like, we learn to drive and then we look out the window. Is the window that we see, is it just the car? No, we're using the window we're looking through and we're looking at something else. And so these deep brain structures are the window to that huge consciousness, which is the divine, the Dharma Mega, the big holy. And so that's what we're connecting with. Brett, great question. Brett says, hi, Forrest. We are chatting about unconditional love equating to complete presence awareness and not an emotional response or feeling. Yes, absolutely. This was a big insight for me as I hadn't considered this. Could you elaborate on this a bit more? Oh, I'd love to. I think we talked about this, you and I too. And because you're like, I don't get these huge, big love things that you're talking about. And that's just the beginning. And so what happens is your heart opens up and maybe that's a big deal to you. Right? Like maybe you haven't been in your heart for a while. For some of us, we're all locked up in worries and concerns and the junk of life. And then we jump up into the heart. We're like, oh, whoa, love. I remember my first student, Dwayne. I love Dwayne. Called me up and he had a roll up into his heart. And so he's on the phone with me. He's like, oh my God, love. And I'm like, yeah. And there's more. And he's like, there's more. Yeah. Love. And I'm like, yeah. And there's more. And he's like, yes. Sure. But love. And that was our whole conversation. Right. And it was beautiful. And he just had this roll up into the heart. And I'm like, and there's more. And he's like, but the love. And he's right. So that's just a huge explosion into the heart. But then you will roll up into the throat. And the throat is really about wisdom. And so you see like beautiful philosophical or poetry describing love, describing how to be kind, describing how to be righteous to your friends and your family and how beautiful that is. And so when you see something philosophical like that, and you go, oh my God, that's beautiful. Now the love has come into wisdom, right? So now you're entering into the throat chakra and you can appreciate that. Even in somebody else, you go, oh my God, they had just a little bit of that into consciousness into the throat and they expressed this wisdom and it was just beautiful. You go, oh my God. And so now it's a love, but it's a wisdom, right? So it's not just love, it's love and wisdom. Right? And then we come up into the knowing and we have a download. And so it's like love and wisdom. So the wisdom can be here. It's like, oh, we have all this philosophy, right? And it's beautiful. But then we go, oh, on top of that, I know. Oh my God, I know. Oh my God, I get it. Like I was here and now I get it. And so there's a different level. And so the consciousness is rolling up into, oh my God, I get it. Oh my God, I know. Oh my God, I see how it fits. Like it's integrating. It's coming together. The love and the wisdom and the knowing. And it's just, you just see it, right? And that's that further integration into the knowing. And so you're touching on the right brain, and the right brain is a multi processor. And so you see like the flower of life, you see like the Sri Yantra, and they are describing this interconnectedness of the universe. They're describing what's been called Indra's net, that all of this consciousness is just playing out and interconnected to everything. And I remember I was a postulant monk, and they started getting into, actually, I think I was a novice at the time, and they started getting into mind maps. And so Brother Mitrananda asked us, will you go and start connecting the dots and make a mind map, how things interconnect, right? Or just whatever subject, just make a mind map. And a mind map is, okay, this connects to this. And so you write one thing, and then you write one thing here, and you connect this, and then you connect that. And so I started making a mind map, but I was already getting, I'd already had a samadhi. I was rolling up. And so it's like my mind map was just like everything is connecting to everything, I couldn't stop. It was just on and on and on and on and on. And I finally just kind of quit. And I didn't do a very good job. I didn't do a very good, because it was just like everything is everything. And because it was all integrating. It's like the love and the wisdom and the knowing was all integrating. And so I didn't get a very good grade on the mind map, because I'm just like, everything is connected to everything. They're like, yeah, you didn't do a good job. But to me, it was all this interlaced. I couldn't pull it apart. It was just everything is everything. And so I remember somebody got a really good grade on their mind map, and I'm like, well, yeah. But it's just a funny experience, but they did great. So that's, but then that knowing is here, right? That, oh my God, I get it. That's here. And then it's just the perfect prayer, right? You start to enter into that perfect prayer, which is like, and now we're in the realm of Hafiz. Everything is holy. It's just like you see the big picture. So it's like here was the wisdom, here was the love, here was the wisdom, here was the knowing. And then it's just like, oh my, no words, right? Right? What was it? That movie, she goes on, what was that movie? Oh my God, I can't remember the name. What was that movie? She goes through a wormhole, and then she comes out, she sees the universe, she goes, no words. And that's what happens. That's what happens to us. The perfect prayer, we're in adoration of the hugeness, the holiness of it all. And when you see your life from that place, it's this ultimate integration. And so we've come up the funnel. Like we were way down here into, the lower chakras, it's nothing. And then we come up, and it's just it's bigger, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And so that big boisterous love, it mixes and it becomes refined. And so you can see this in the 4 Brahma Viharas, which are Buddhist, right? So they say, first, loving kindness will arise. Then that's the love. And then out of that loving kindness, and they got these from Patanjali, by the way. These are in the Yoga Sutras, these 4. So the Buddhist Brahma Viharas come from the Yoga Sutras. So first, loving kindness will arise in the heart. That's a roll-up of consciousness into the heart. That's what they're talking about. Through meditation, I entered into loving kindness. And then out of that loving kindness, an expansive compassion arises. Just very spontaneously, we feel compassion for others, right? That's a further refinement of the heart, compassion. We could say wisdom, right? And then out of that comes a pure joy, a very, very beautiful, huge joy. It's not like a party joy. This is a very, very empathic, very, very loving, very, very inclusive joy, right? And then finally, equanimity. And so now the love has come up so high that it's hard to name it just love. And so they call it equanimity, that it's just this peace and this, right? The perfect prayer. That's the equanimity that they're talking about. So all of that bliss that starts out sometimes very boisterously, it's like, oh my God, all this bliss, it gets refined, it gets refined, it gets refined. Everything becomes more subtle and refined. And then it's just, oh my God, everything is holy. That's why Hafiz was right. He was so right. Just, and then it's like, well, I sometimes we can't integrate everything all at once. And we come back and we look at the world and we say, I don't know. I just know that everything is holy. I can't explain that. Sometimes we can't. It's like, maybe if you give me a few days, I could explain it, but sometimes we can't, right? But we just know. And so that's why these Persian mystics were saying, I think it was the teacher of Hafiz. I don't remember. It was one of the teachers was saying, he brought in this idea of bewilderment. And so there's this beautiful, I think it's Hafiz or maybe it's Rumi. He says, I think it's Rumi. I can't remember. It's in my book. Sell your cleverness and buy bewilderment, right? It's like, don't try and figure everything out. It's not going to work. That's your left brain. Sell your cleverness and embrace bewilderment. It's like, oh, and he's not talking about confused. He's talking about, oh my God, that kind of bewilderment. Oh my God. That's beautiful question. I really hope that makes a lot of sense. Glenn says, in the spinal breathing. Oh, Siddhant, did you raise your hand?
Yeah, about the bewilderment, lately I've been feeling that. So once you, in the Yoni Mudra, when you see the spiritual eye, the bewilderment that you mentioned once to me, that once you see the spiritual eye, you feel as if you're bewildered just to look at the spiritual eye, and you laugh. And then you just talk to it just like it's a lover, like you're so beautiful. And then the bliss comes. Yes, that works. Just wanted to say that.
Yes, absolutely. The spiritual eye can be your window to the divine. Absolutely. And so you can receive visions through it. You can talk to it just like you're talking to Divine Mother. And you're basically on the left side looking into the right side and saying hello. So beautiful. Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
I love it. Thank you, Siddhant. Glenn says, in the spinal breathing, when holding at the ajna, the swelling in my nose reduces dramatically. I have severe inflammation and it feels so good. I lean into it. Is this soft change of focus detracting from the progress of doing the technique? So you're actually talking about the breath states that are in my first book. And what happens is, as we enter into HRV, as we enter into the parasympathetic system, there is a reduction of inflammation. And the turbinates in your nose, which are there to protect you from dust, right? So you're in a dangerous place. You're in a place where you need your sympathetic system. Your sympathetic system is on. And so the turbinates actually close up your nose to reduce. So you're going to fight, right? And you're going to get dusty while you're running and fighting, right? In the sympathetic system. This is how your body kind of reasons this. And so it closes up the nose. And then you enter into the parasympathetic, and those actually curl back and they open up. And so you'll feel in your nose just this opening. And I track those changes in the first book. I actually repeat the tracking that was done by Dhirananda. Dhirananda is the one who wrote those down. And so I track his progression and show you how you can track your deep entry into the parasympathetic. And so the final one is the big one where you'll feel like your nose is just kind of disappears. And it's just this huge, easy breath coming through the nose. And it's all because of your parasympathetic. So that's really wonderful. And yeah, you should totally enjoy it. And you can actually, so I was using those for years as a signal that my parasympathetic was coming online. I didn't have any of these names. I just knew that would happen, and it meant my state was deep. But it's you're tracking your progress into the parasympathetic, and it's very deep and very profound. And so that biofeedback is not going to detract. It's actually going to take you deeper. So fantastic and great question. Ben says, do you experience the roll-up mostly after Kriya when sitting very still? Is this how it normally happens for you? Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So while I'm doing the Kriya, I will have some roll-up. No, it's mostly, well, it can happen anywhere. So a lot of times, yogis will talk to me and they will say, Forrest, I did all of my Kriya and then I sat down on the couch with my family, or I was watching something, or I sat at my computer, and then I had this deep experience. Well, why? Why did it happen not in the meditation? Well, you sat down and you stopped worrying about the Kriya and getting somewhere, and you just really let go, and then boop, everything falls into place and you go into this deep experience. So that happens a lot to yogis. It's really wonderful and beautiful. When I'm doing my Kriya, I will have a roll up into the heart, and then I'll have a roll up into the throat, and then I'll have a roll up into the medulla, and then I'll have a roll up into the crown, or sometimes I'll just have a roll up into the heart and then into the crown. Sometimes it's very quick, sometimes it's slower. And so it can happen both ways. But if it's your most deep experience, it will usually happen in the stillness. So very, very normal. But the idea of the Om Japa is that it's cleaning the way to allow that to happen. So very good. Very good. Beautiful, Ben. Monty, hi Forrest. I have 2 questions. First, in Khechari Mudra, how can I know that I am touching the right spot of the sphenoid sinus? And do I have a Yogacharya in Canada? Yes, I do. He's on the west side. No, yeah, west side. So I can send you that. If you could message me on Patreon and remind me. I've gone through all the pre-initiation videos you sent me. Oh, great. Okay, fantastic. So how can you know that you're touching the right spot? So you guys get the deep initiation into Khechari. So once the tongue is into the nasal pharynx, you want it to touch the far side, meaning towards your forehead, towards your nose, the far side of the sphenoid. So the tongue goes up, and you might touch the very sharp nasal septum, which separates the 2 sinuses internally. It's very, very sharp. And if you follow that up towards the roof, then you'll find, and you go backwards a little bit, it's kind of like a little whale spout in the top of your nasal pharynx, and that'll be the sphenoid. And you want your tongue, let's see if I can do this, your tongue is coming, and maybe you came all the way forward, you touch the nasal septum, then you come backwards, and you begin to touch that small indentation in the roof, which is the sphenoid. So you want to touch the far side, the side towards your face, the far side of the sphenoid, so that some of the breath comes up the tongue and touches the sphenoid. You want your breath to touch the sphenoid and stimulate the sphenoid. Okay? That's what you want. So look for that. That's the right place to rest the tongue on the far side of the sphenoid, towards your nose, towards your face. So play with that. And there should be room on either side, on the sides of the tongue, that breath still travels through. We're not holding the breath. The breath should travel through, and some of the breath should touch the sphenoid. And so warm the sphenoid gradually. Okay? And that will be the stimulation of the sphenoid, which transfers through into the brain, into the pituitary, and stimulates the pituitary. So now you guys have a deep initiation into Khechari. So there you go. Glenn, Do you have a hand raised?
Hi, yeah, thank you very much. But yeah, this is amazing about Ketri. Being a beginner, I'm just really trying to do the basics. I'm wondering just quickly, people who are learning basically, is there any idea about like, you can tell what kind of progress you're making, or do you just keep going until you get there? Like I can touch, like, it helps to reduce swelling, which I have a lot in the nose, so I can get far back enough up into the top of the soft palate, and I've never made it past there. So what are the signs along the way? Anything?
So
Is it,
all of us can, when we're meditating, we can raise the eyes to the spiritual eye, and we can raise the tongue to any part of the roof of the mouth. And that will, that's the baby Ketri, right? So that's progress in itself. That's great. And then you can do the stretch. You push the tongue to the roof of the mouth and you stretch down. But eventually that won't be enough. And that will stop doing. So you can quit that. At a certain point, you can quit that exercise. It's useless. At a certain point, you take your two fingers, you put it under the tongue and you push it backwards. And then, doing that, you'll be able to reach the uvula. And then you can push the tongue and start to come around the lip of the soft palate. So you're coming around the lip of the uvula. And then you can start pushing your tongue into the nasal pharynx. And then you can leave it there and it will fall out. And then you push it back and you leave it there and it will fall out. So that, Glenn, that probably sounds like the next thing for you to do is start pushing the tongue backwards and experiencing that just a little bit.
okay.
All right.
Thank you.
So do that.
Yeah.
Do that for like a month and then let me know how it goes. Perfect.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much. I love everything.
Beautiful. Monty, you got your hand raised as well?
Hi, Forrest. I have achieved the Keshari Mudra. I can touch the staphnod sinus, a small indentation, but I haven't feel anything special by touching it. Like same, so is there any trick to?
Yes. So, the Kachari yogis, they like to say that the sphenoid is full of wax. I don't think it is, or maybe it is, but I don't really think that's the thing. I think the thing is that you're creating. So here is here's the little indentation, right, in the roof of which is the sphenoid, right? If this was the sphenoid, right, then you've got some bone. And then up here, you've got the pituitary. And so you're trying to make an energetic connection from the sphenoid, which is, it's for hormonal release, right? And so it's set up for this, but it's kind of far away. So you're trying to connect to here to here. And so that's why I just told you the breath is going to warm it up, right? So you think of this is the gap that they're talking about as if it is wax. This is getting really deep initiation into Khetri. Wow. So they are saying that this portion is full of wax and it will slowly melt. Or another way to say that is that you are slowly creating an energetic connection through the bone into the pituitary. And this is an organ which is designed for hormonal release. So all of this is natural. We're just creating very slow. So we're not forcing the tongue up. You don't need to do that. You just slowly stimulate the sphenoid until you create that energetic connection. And you're like, it's not happening. Yeah. That's the wax that they're talking about. So you're encountering exactly what they said. And so it's natural and normal what you're experiencing. And then through a little time, it will create an energetic connection. And so do the thing which I just said, which is the breath, and let the breath warm the sphenoid slowly. And that will melt the wax, they say, and create the energetic connection with the pituitary. Okay? Siddhant, do you have a...
Thank you.
Go ahead, Monty.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Yeah, I just wanted to add something to it. So I have been experimenting with K3 a lot, and forest like an year ago. That I mean, I can physically do it, but it's giving me a lot of experience. But this trick is really, really helpful for us. I'm going to try it. But before that, I just want to say that the face has to be very, very relaxed when we try to do that.
Yes.
Otherwise, whenever our face is very contracted or not relaxed, we will not be able to expand, or we will not be able to look at the spiritual come naturally. So I think feeling the dorsal vagal is the most important thing. When the breath goes deep, then when your tongue is relaxed, I think then we can try Khichdi. That's my experience, at least.
That is perfect. I'm so glad you said that. That was absolutely perfect. It all comes back to the dorsal vagal, the left amygdala, and the right hippocampus. That's it. So yeah, beautiful. Absolutely. Those are the most important. Ketchery is really super helpful, but I don't talk about it every day because the dorsal vagal, the left amygdala, the right hippocampus, these are the things we have to have for the deep meditation. And the Ketchery is just really helpful along the way as well. And so it can turn into an extremely powerful mix, but it's still the dorsal vagal. So beautiful. Yeah, absolutely. We got to relax the face. Perfect. Okay, this says unknown sender. Forrest, in your book, Mastering Meditation, and your YouTube videos, you speak of the... Oh, we already had this. Yeah, okay. It went twice. Beautiful. Love and blessings, everyone. Gotta go. I think that was Russ. Thank you, sir. So incredibly grateful. Oh, thank you so much. Okay. Oh, was that Justin? No, right. Amber says, no questions, but thank you for helping me to better understand the states. Beautiful. I feel that I am developing a very good practice sense and confidence regarding what I do and don't experience in meditation. So helpful to have your guidance. Beautiful. Delphina. Forrest, you just mentioned being underground causes energetic problems. Oh, being ungrounded. Yes. Yeah, I was very ungrounded. So I was very ivory tower kind of person, just kind of up in my head a lot in my youth. And I had to ground myself. So when you go to, remember, I don't know, maybe you saw a number of weeks ago. Anybody has to go, by the way. We're going over time. So anybody has to go. I totally understand. But I think maybe a month ago, I mentioned the yogini in India, and she is helping people who are having Kundalini experiences and very bad experiences. And all of that, what she's explaining is that all of those problems are, what she is saying, they arise from being unbalanced, not being grounded, and not surrendering and not allowing the energy to flow. And so her go-to answer for everything Kundalini related is lay down on the floor, which is extremely grounding, and surrender. Just practice surrender to the higher self. I surrender, I let go, I surrender, and you're laying down while you do it. And I think that's beautiful. That's a beautiful way to ground yourself and just let go, allow the energy to flow. She had a woman, she was doing I watched a short question and answers. She was talking with this lady, and this lady's like, I'm afraid I'm going to die. She's like, okay, so you die. Okay, don't worry about it. She's like, you let go. It's like, wow, that's a straightforward answer, isn't it? And it's like, you're here. You're not dead. So, live. Okay, but then maybe you're going to die. Okay, who's not going to die? It's like all of us. We're all going to. So just let go. What will be, will be. We don't worry about it. And she walked this woman through her anxiety about having a lot of energetic experiences. It was really beautiful. And so this is what I found, is that the energy was coming up into my head, and then it was getting stuck, and I was doing this lineage of Kriya that was extremely focused on the spiritual eye. So people are like, oh, you got to do that. I'm like, no, I did that. Like, I ran that program for years, and I came to the end of it, and it was not good for me. And so that's why I love my guru's lineage, where he's talking about the medulla. And then we talk about the crown. And to me, that's perfect. So you use the spiritual eye, you see the spiritual eye, absolutely beautiful, wonderful. But you pull towards the medulla, and you get pulled up into the crown. That's really beautiful. And that's much more balanced. So if we're not grounded in some kind of way, sometimes these really big experiences where the energy gets pulled up into the brain, they can be they can cause us a little bit of problems. It takes a little while for our energy to become balanced again. And so we were talking about the 9 directions and the 9 forms of Divine Mother. And again, what is it about? Balance. Just not just one, not just Saraswati, not just Lakshmi, but Kali, Lakshmi, Saraswati. This balanced approach to our energy, to the Shakti. And so that's what really can be very, very helpful. So what are some signs of being ungrounded? The first sign might be that you stub your toe, or you reach for something and you jam your finger. You're not in your body at that moment. You're not integrated and flowing, and you're kind of up in your head, and you just bump your toe, or you bump your knee, or you hit your ankle, or you trip over something. That's a very big sign. Oh, great. Wow. Okay, good. Okay, let me ground myself. Maybe I just lay down on the floor and ground myself. Maybe I practice Qigong, and I've got that old video where I show you how to do Qigong and feel the earth. Just feel the earth and pull up the earth into your body. It's very grounding. I love that. And that helped me tremendously. I have a student who did a lot of Qigong early on in his life, and then he found Kriya, and now he goes very, very, very deep with the Kriya that I gave him, and he goes, I have no idea how people do this. Now, he's very tall. He's kind of an ivory tower body and personality, and so he goes, I have no idea how people do this without daily grounding. I'm like, yeah, you gotta have that balance. And so a lot of us are just very naturally balanced, and you guys that come to me are usually very balanced because you're attracted to me, and I'm very balanced in the way that I present things. And so you're attracted to that because you are largely already very balanced, I would say. And that's been my experience with all of you. So you're going to have a lot less problems than I did. Thank goodness. But stubbing your toe, having little accidents, having big accidents, digestion problems, feeling like you're not in your body. Like, some of this can be really nice, but then some of it can be, oh, I think I'm out of balance. And so when that happens, you just practice things which give you balance. There are stories. I think it was Ramakrishna was smoking. And he told his students are like, why are you smoking, sir? And he's like, well, I don't want to be in samadhi all the time. So, some of these yogis were doing some wild things in order to keep that balance. Yeah, funny, right? Hilarious. I bet you never heard that story before, did you? So, yeah, I think there's a few stories like that. I can't remember anymore, but I remember that was Ramakrishna. He was smoking to keep himself grounded. I don't recommend smoking, but but that's kind of funny. I heard some noise. Did somebody have a question? Did somebody want to say something?
Forrestji, I just had a follow-up question on this.
Yes.
I think you're talking about the yogi grounding. I think a month back I checked out some of her videos where somebody asked her about meditation, and this is why she doesn't recommend meditation, because she says you have this expansion and experience of forgetting your body and going out. She says when reality hits and you come back into your body, you just won't be able to integrate that.
I
It
have the
doesn't
same
really help.
question.
Yeah, okay. So actually, I had this in mind, and today you brought this up, so I thought I'll bring it in.
Yeah. She is not a Kriya yogi. And so she sees a lot of systems and she's like, why are you doing this to yourself? Just surrender, surrender, and make it your all day practice. So she's not a Kriya yogi, but I love a lot of her answers. So she's talking to, so she's different, right? She's not me. She's not a Kriya yogi. And she says, I don't like a lot of the practices you guys are doing. So she might see me and she might go, I don't like what you guys are doing. And that's okay. I still love the things that she has to say. So she says, she sees some of these, Vedantic people and they're all up in their head. She said, this is not the real Vedanta. The real Vedanta is very, very balanced. And it's a deep philosophical understanding of what we're aiming at, which is the big holy, right? Oh my God, all is holy. That is Vedanta in a nutshell. And so that's beautiful. But you get these young men, especially, who get kind of wrapped up into it and it's all a mental exercise and they're like, I don't have to do anything. She's like, really? You don't have to do anything? Okay. Good luck with that. Like, call me in 20 years and let's see how it works out. So she's really straightforward with them and she really she's like, hey, if this is real, it's real. If it's not, it's not, but you're wrapped up in a mental exercise and it's not going to take you anywhere. And I adore that. And I adore her grounding, surrendering advice. And so when she speaks, it's like, this is somebody real. This is not from a book. This is not from a training. This is not, this is somebody that knows. You feel it, right? It's like when you come to me and you ask me, and it's like, I'm going to tell you from my experience and you know it. So, and it's the same thing I see in her. She's speaking directly from her own pure experience. And so yeah, she's not a Kriya yogi, but she has great advice for Kundalini. And you're saying, she's saying you're going to have these profound experiences and you're not going to be able to, well, she doesn't have 3 insurance policies. She doesn't have Om Japa in the chakras. She doesn't have Mahamudra and Navi. And that's why we have them. She doesn't have HRV resonance, right? She doesn't have the truth of the pranayama, which is HRV resonance. She's missing all these things that we have in the Kriya. So why is the Kriya a system? It's not just do one, right? It's not a one and done. It is a system. Why? Because it's answering all of these problems. And that's my huge message when I go on YouTube. It's like, guys, there's a program and you got to do the program. So the Kriya without the Om Japa, oh my God, what are you doing to yourself? And she's like, meditation, and you don't have this insurance policy. She doesn't even know about the insurance policies, but she's like, why are you doing this to yourself? And I'm like, yeah, why are you doing this? You've got to have the Om Japa. You've got to have the Navi. You've got to have the HRV resonance. You've got to throw a little bit of stretching in there somewhere, just a little bit. That's our insurance policy. That's why the Kriya is so holistic. And she's saying a lot of these meditative programs that you guys are doing to yourself are not. And she's right. And so it's very aligned with what I'm saying, but she's just saying it differently. And she doesn't have we've got so many tools. It's embarrassing. We've got so many tools, right? The cute, and I've shown you the parallels between bhakti and cute baby. So we have cute baby, and I've shown you the parallels between expansion and hakala. So we have hakala. It's like, oh my God, we got an embarrassment of tools and insurance policies, but she doesn't have all of that. But the things that she's saying, she's very correct. Yeah. So great. I hope that answers it. Great question.
Yes, Paz.
Beautiful. And okay, where was I? Tim says, so beautiful, full, and complete. Oh, thank you, Tim. I love that huge balance, right? Glenn says, thank you for supercharging our experience and practice. Oh, I love that. I love that. Sergio, you mentioned the crown. I feel the energy at times up around my head, and it feels like I'm wearing a crown. But I resist going there because it feels closer to tension, not bliss. Can you explain the crown chakra and the sensation? So when it starts to pull up into your head, sometimes it's like, whoa, what do I do with this? Whoa. And so that's a little bit of that tension that you're feeling. It's like it's something new. But let it come, let it come. When it's too much, you pull away. But you let it come, you let it come. And it starts to feel beautiful. It will start to feel, maybe it'll feel like it's expanding. I have this new level, which I wasn't expecting to tell you guys about, but I have this new thing where I've been feeling that crown for, oh my God, 20 years, 25 years. It's been a very long time, and I adore it. And now I can, so for quite a while, I was feeling like the whole right brain would become swollen, and you would think that would be, oh my God, is that too much? Well, for me, I don't know. I've been dealing with the energy coming up into the brain for so long. It felt really pleasurable, like blissful, like my right brain would become swollen and it would feel blissful. And then lately it feels like a lotus in my right brain opening up. So I'll feel like the crown and I'll feel like a concentration of white light in my right brain. And then it became sweet. Like it wasn't Amrita. I wasn't having an energetic flow down my tongue. I wasn't having, what is it? The sinus will actually produce liquid. So that's some of the Amrita, but a lot of it's just energy, and a lot of it's a release of hormone. And so the Amrita is kind of like all of that, right? But this was just in my brain, and it was just really, 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 really sweet, just really beautiful. And I would just sit with the sweetness of it, and it would just expand and expand and expand. So it would go into an absorption, and then, maybe it went into a samadhi, maybe it didn't. It didn't matter to me. It was just like, oh my God, this is gorgeous. And I would just sit with that sweetness. But it was like a brain Amrita, like a mental, not mental, but like a consciousness Amrita. It was just really, really beautiful. So that's a sensation of the crown that you can feel maybe, and or look for. Or say, what if that happened? And you can kind of induce things that way. You can say, what if that happened? But in the beginning, maybe you feel that pull towards the crown and it's like, whoa, it's too much. Your body and your nervous system is getting used to it. So a little bit of that feels a little closer to tension and not bliss. That's normal. And so you got to sit with it. You sit with it. You sit with it. You balance. You surrender. You let go. It's all okay. And everything the whole nervous system comes into balance very slowly. And then it will grow a little bigger. And so you're kind of increasing your wattage, right? Is that how we would say it? I'm not an electrical expert, but you're increasing your capacity, right? Slowly. And let's see.
Great.
Is that helpful?
Yes, it is. It's just that at one point, like 6 weeks ago, when energy was really moving in my head, at first I was focusing on the third eye, and things felt like they were opening up, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait a minute, I'm getting a headache here. Whoa, and then, I started thinking, okay, I'm getting that, the first knot.
Yes.
And so I've been really hesitant about letting the energy flow up into my head because going back to that first knot that I feel I was experiencing.
Very good. So extra Mahamudra, extra Navi, extra grounding and surrender. Lay down on the ground if you can and surrender, let go. Extra grounding your whole body, and make the medulla your friend. Make the medulla your friend. Make the crown your friend rather than the spiritual eye. It's okay, a little bit of the spiritual eye, but make the other two more of your friend. Try that. And that will help to balance everything.
Yeah.
And make the heart your friend, of course, and everything. Make the whole spine your friend, the whole dorsal vagal. Make that your friend, and kind of spread out that sensation through the whole spine. and ground yourself, ground yourself, ground yourself. So I come in and it's too much, and then I go back and I ground, and then I come in and it's too much, and then I go back and I ground, and that will very slowly spread it out, and your nervous system will be able to handle it, and it won't be a knot, right? And it will become more and more tolerable and enjoyable. So
yeah, I avoided it, and I saw from your other videos, and the other ones that you have on your other site, what to do, and so I've been practicing that, and now I'm pulling the energy, like I said, going more towards the back of my head. So I just want to make sure I'm okay going there and not
perfect.
Triggering that knot.
Perfect. All of that is perfect, and the idea is proceed with caution. So you're doing great. That's what you're doing. You're proceeding with caution, and don't be in a rush. Just let it play out, and it will go well.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question, Glenn. Rahul, you said, what is the name of that yogini? And somebody answered you. Thank you. Thank you, Chetan, for answering. And Glenn, you have your hand raised. Maybe. Oh, maybe it was an accident. Yes, perfect. Yeah, that's her. That's her. The Maharishka. How do we say it? Maharishka.
Oh, hi.
Hi, Rahul. Was that Rahul?
Oh, it's Glenn.
Glenn, what's your question?
Hi. Do you explicitly work with the Guru chakra, or is that more of an japa process for you? Mentioning energy going into the head, and early on, I was given this symbol of a red triangle in the forehead way back when. What it meant, so I looked it up, and apparently it relates to what they call the Guru chakra. Do you do anything with that?
Ashokji told me that you will roll up into the medulla. So I have a roll up into the heart, roll up into the throat, roll up into the medulla. And then he's told me there are levels of the medulla, right? So you could imagine that there is a continuum from the medulla to the crown. And along the way, we might say that somewhere in there's a Guru chakra. And what is the experience? Like, what is the pure experience of the Guru chakra? Is a download. So you're sitting at the feet of the true Guru, and you go, oh. And maybe it's very simple. Maybe it's just like, oh. Or maybe it's like, whoa. Maybe it's big. Doesn't matter. It's all sitting at the feet of the true Guru. And it's just, it's actually a deep contact with the right hippocampus. And so, but it happened along our journey to the crown. And so you can say, from here to here, there's this continuum, right? And so you might roll up into the medulla, and you might roll up farther. And one of those, we would say, that's the Guru, right? So it's kind of like, like how do we describe that in a story? We might come into we came into the room, and the Guru's over there, and then, but his students were in the way, and maybe we talked to the students, we got some understanding, then we got a little closer, and it's like, whoa, okay, now I get it, and then we're flying. Then we're flying with the Guru, and we're in the crown. So that kind of might be a story like continuum of what happens as we encounter a deeper and deeper perception through that continuum. So beautiful. Beautiful. Wow. Well, that was great. We're at an hour and 40 minutes, and huge hugs to all of you. Thank you for joining me on your weekend. It was amazing session, I think. And so huge hugs to all of you. And thank you for the birthday wishes. Some people know it's my birthday this weekend, so thank you very much. And so huge hugs to all of you. It was Madri's birthday just a little bit ago too, wasn't it? Another Libra. So happy birthday to Madri.
Me too, 11th October.
Oh, beautiful. All right. We'll have a little Libra party. Awesome. Well, you guys take care, and big hugs, lots of love to all of you. And God bless.